Hi Flosstube, it's Kim Chamberlain, the Canal Town Stitcher. Welcome to my closet for today. This is kind of a craft room slash closet slash office, I guess, for today. Welcome. It has been a little while since I have filmed last. I'm excited to be back. We went to New York and spent about 7 weeks up there in our camper. And so I was stitching and working on lots of things, but I just could not film. So I'm excited to be back with you today. I hope this isn't too busy in the background. I'll try to keep the stitching to the forefront. We're going to have a couple videos that I'm going to film today, so you're going to see me wearing a very similar outfit in the next video too. Let me just adjust my camera a little bit here. Okay, so, oh, I don't like that. Might need to lift it up a little. Might need to put it on something. Let's put it on something. Yeah, so anyhow, that's better. Okay, I felt like it was cutting off my head, like really cutting it off. So I have a WIP parade that I'm going to do with you today. I organized all of my WIPs the other day. I have a couple of kits that I'm going to film later. We're going to go over plans and all that fun stuff. And, you know, if you have any questions or if you have any anything that you are wondering about, don't hesitate to send me a comment in the comments below. And I guess we'll get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kim Chamberlain. I am a 4th grade teacher. I'm a mom of 4. I just had one of my sons graduated from high school this year. I live in Jacksonville, North Carolina, but I originally lived in Palmyra, New York, which is where my Canal Town Stitcher came from. So things like Hobby House Needleworks and things like that are very familiar to me because I lived only 20 minutes from there. So that was my my LNS, and I still go there. So like those 7 weeks that I was there, I was in Hobby House Needleworks buying stuff. I go and see my family up there, and so like I was there in December. So yeah, I just I'm excited to see you all again and to be here again and to be filming. I know it's kind of a weird spot, but my husband works from home, so he's in our in my usual filming spot. And then a friend of mine is having a job interview in my dining room, and so like this is where I ended up today. All right, so let's get started with the WIP parade. And as I'm talking about stuff, I'll tell you about my trip and talk to you about the kids and all that fun stuff. All right, so I have WIPs from 2021 and 2022. My oldest WIP is a WIP that I started on New Year's Eve 2020, but I consider that a 2021 WIP because I really started it at like 9 o'clock at night on New Year's Eve, so I don't consider that to be like a 2020 start, even though it kind of was a 2020 start. But I don't have any, I mean, I have older WIPs, but like those are WIPs that I'm not working through anymore. So yeah, we're gonna get started. Okay, so to get you started today, what I thought I would do, sorry for the glare in my glasses, is show you the finishes that I had for this year so far. So I'm not calling this like a mid-year WIP parade because it's not middle of the year, but I'm gonna just say it's a welcome back WIP parade. So I had 9 finishes so far this year. Okay, and I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 here. Long May She Wave is downstairs. And then I have a couple in here. that I can show you too, because I consider them finished. They're like partial finishes. All right, so none of these are ironed. I'm working on fully finishing stuff downstairs, so hopefully I'll have some fully finished items that I can show you in the next update video. So the first one I'm going to show you that I finished this year is Fold in the Cheese. Just fold it in, and let me see if I can find it's like I'm a newbie. I'm starting all over again. I need something to put behind this. I'm a teacher and I have no whiteboards. I wish I had a whiteboard. A whiteboard would be perfect. What do I have in here? I know. I can use this. This won't be very comfortable. Hang on. Okay. So this is Fold in the Cheese. This is stitched on 28 count white Monaco. It is not all the called for colors. I got this pattern on Etsy, and the letters were in blue and I liked the gray, so I stitched this with 647, but the rest were the called for colors. And Fold in the Cheese, Just Fold It In is from Schitt's Creek. So if you're familiar with it, it's a really funny episode where David and Moira are trying to cook a meal, and it's supposedly a family recipe that they've made before, and they come across the direction to fold in the cheese, and David does not know what that means, and it's really funny. All right, oops. The next piece, and I just found a needle in this. I have my needle box right here. Is Afternoon in New York. This is by Country Cottage Needleworks. It's stitched on 25 count vintage Stormy Night Lugana, and most of the called for colors. And here it is. I stitched this for my daughter. She has Afternoon in Paris already, so I just have to put this in a frame and hang it up in her bedroom. But it came out really great. So the only color that I changed on this was it called for a color that I couldn't find, a Gloriana, not a Gloriana, it was a, oh my gosh, why can I not think? It wasn't Gloriana, it was Gentle Arts. A Gentle Arts color that I couldn't find. So this building right here, oops, sorry. This building right here is supposed to be a different color, but I used the straw hat to stitch it. But I think it came out really good. Like, you can see the variegation. It's just not as dark as what a brownstone would normally be in New York, but I thought it came out really great. I am sorry that I'm like a little like different today. I can't pull it together for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, next up, this was a big finish for me. I finished this in January or February. I started this on New Year's Day 2021, and I finished it. It is Quaker Snowflakes by Hello from Liz Matthews. This is using all the called for silk, and it is on a piece of blue azure 32 count. I think it's Zweigert, yes, and it's Lugana, and I love it. But this was a beast to stitch at first. So this was my first time ever stitching on 32 count, and I was stitching on Lugana, and it was like I was having a really hard time finding the holes. But then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, within a month it just clicked, and now I can see on 32 count like just fine. In fact, I stitch almost everything on 32 count, so you're gonna find that a lot of my WIPs are 32 count. Oops. That's gonna be framed. Next up is my March sampler by Country Cottage Needleworks. And I'm using this board that has writing on it. I'm gonna use it as a mounting board, but so hopefully that doesn't get in the way of you being able to see the actual piece. But this is the March sampler. It's by Country Cottage Needleworks, and I didn't have anything St. Patrick's Day. So in 2022, I started stitching some St. Patrick's Day projects, and this was one of them. And I finished it in January of this year. Super cute. Can't wait. I'm going to finish this as a banner so I can hang it during that time of year. Now, if you have been my friend for a minute, following me, watching my channel, you know that I was stitching a project for my son that I absolutely hated. It was Star Characters. It was by Geo Creations. It's on Etsy. These are Lego Star Wars characters, and this project, it was a labor of love for me because I love my son, but I really hated stitching this. And I will explain why. So I started this in May of 2021 and finished it in May of 2023. This is on 28 count Legacy by Picture This Plus, and it's not ironed or anything, but here it is. So we have Chewbacca, Han Solo, Boba Fett, Darth Vader, and R2-D2. And it came out really good, and I'm very thrilled with how it came out. But this guy right here took me over a month to stitch. He is very confetti heavy. But Ryan loves it. So I'm going to iron it, mount it, and he'll be able to hang it in his room. So that's Star Characters, finally done. Finished it up. Okay. The rest of my finishes I will show you as I go along. And then I'm going to talk about my UFOs when I'm done. I have a couple that I'm going to restart. So I'm not really considering them UFOs per se, but I'm not going to show you them in this video. I'm just going to talk about like when I'm going to restart them and what I'm going to do to restart them. All right. These are in no particular order except for this one. This one is my oldest WIP. It is from, like I said, New Year's Eve 2020, but I really consider it a 2021 WIP. It is out of a Better Homes and Gardens Keepsakes calendar. And I'm on the last thing, so this should be finished this year. It is called Patriotic Picnic. It was the month of July that year in 2000, and I have a cover picture, but it's terrible, but I'll pull it out for you anyway. I'll show it to you so you can see it. So it is this one right here. And let me see if I can get rid of that glare, but it's this piece right here in the middle. I'm stitching it with all the called for DMCs on a piece of 25 count Vintage Stormy Night Lugana. And oops, this is where it is now. As you can see, I have got a lot of it done. So basically all I have left to do is this piece right here, and then it has song lyrics around the outside that I have to backstitch in. And I have some backstitching to do on some of these corners too. These two corners are done. These two corners need backstitching. I've been trying to backstitch as I go along so I don't have to go back through and do the whole thing. But I am looking forward to having this be completed. It's coming out really nice, and I'm very excited about it. All right, now from now on, none of these WIPs are going to be in any kind of chronological order, but except for the fact that all the WIPs I'm about to show you were started in 2021. I don't keep track of when I start my stuff and when I finish it, except for the year. I do keep track of the year. I just realized that one of my WIPs is downstairs. Okay, I'll have to get that for you later. All right, first up, well, after that one, next up is Countdown to Christmas. This is by Country Cottage Needleworks. I started this during Mania 2021. And I worked on this for Christmas in July. And, oops, now I need the board. This is on a piece of 32 count linen in the color antique. It's antique lamb's wool, 32 count. Look how cute it is. I have no doubt that I can finish this by Christmas. And I don't mind the witch-alt. This is witch-alt. I know that some people don't like it because it's a little stiffer, but I actually don't mind that, especially when it's linen. And I'm a needle poker. I don't use a lot of needle minders, although I'm thinking about making some. I feel like if I made some, maybe I might use them. But I stitch in hand a lot, so I find that they weigh down the fabric when I stitch in hand. When I'm stitching in a hoop, they're not too bad. All right, next up is Quaker. It's Halloween Quaker by Leela's Studio. Let me pull up the cover for this for you. A lot of people are stitching this. Mine is on 32 count Murky, which is the called for fabric, but not the called for count. The called for count is 40 count, but I'm stitching it on 32 count. And I stitched on this a lot over the summer, and I have got a lot done. And I'll tell you about one tiny change I made. So this is where I am so far. Let me put it on the board here. Might make it a little easier to see it. Okay. So I have this whole corner pretty much done. So you'll notice a slight change here if you're working on this one. And that is, I didn't stitch any of the background on this because I really liked the bubbles by themselves. I really thought that looks more like the, like a cauldron, which is what I think it's supposed to like kind of look like. So I just stitched the bubbles by themselves without the background there. But everything else is exactly as called for in the exact called for threads. So this is coming along beautifully. I love it. And it is on my WIP board again. It was called, and it is on my WIP board again. So I should be pulling this back out again. And I always stitch on it in the fall anyway. So I would love to have this done by next Halloween. I know it won't be done by this Halloween, but by next Halloween, I would love to have this done. Next up is Flea Market Flowers. I started this when everybody else started it in 2021. Then everybody else finished it, but not me. And it's well loved. This is a travel project for me, so it goes with me in the car because it's on 25 count. I'm stitching it on the barley that is called for. This is by Lori Holt. All the called for DMCs. And I have done a pretty good job with this year, I think, for my travel stitch. So I finished all the way down to the bottom of the one column and started at the top of the next column. And this is also on my WIP board again this year, so it should be called out again for more time and more love. The bigger projects I put on my WIP board a few times. I have this folded. I have it folded like this. Okay, got that. And like this. Okay. I said this in one of my other videos, but it's like folding a road map. Although some of you watching may not know what that's like. It shows how old I am. Old enough that we used triptychs when I was going on my very first road trip. My husband and I went to AAA. We got our triptych and we headed down to Georgia for our first road trip. Well, our first road trip together was actually when we were 19 years old. But we weren't dating then. We were just friends. Okay, so next up, I have 2 of my finishes for the year. So this is Advent Animals by Brooks Publishing. These are free charts that you can find on that website. I'm doing all 24. It's really ambitious. So I finished this year. Peter Polar Bear. I get that right. I finished him. And Mary Mouse. So those are 2 of my finishes, so that takes me up to 7 finishes. And then I started Dunkin' Dog. So this is being stitched on a piece of 32 count lamb's wool Jobelin. And I love it. So we're going to finish Dunkin' Dog soon and move on. I really want to get these, like as many of these done as I can. I really don't want to be, 65 years old and just finishing this project. I want it to be done so that we can enjoy it at Christmas. All right, next up is one of my own designs. This is my Halloween sampler. It is available on Canal Town Stitcher on Etsy. This is a horrible cover picture because my printer was like really out of ink. And you'll see the difference. So that is the cover. It says, dark and spooky, moonless night, goblins rise, ghosts and goblins rise to fright as the wind blows through the trees. 'Tis the night of Halloween. And I come up with all of my own sayings. So this is on a piece of Jobelin, 32 count, and I cannot remember the name of it. Oh. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, this is where it is now. Really? Really? It's that tree. I gotta get to this. I gotta finish this. So I have a model to put on my Etsy page. I gotta think what the name of this is. I kept the sticker for so long. I don't know where it is. Anyways, you can buy that as a paper pattern or as a PDF on my Etsy shop. And I have a new design that's going up very, 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 very soon. I haven't designed anything new since 2021. And this one I am excited about. All right. Next up is Tonight is Halloween. This is by Kathy Barrett. I love this one. This one I'm actually pretty far on. I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count Whisper Belfast Linen by Zweigert. And I'm going to need the board for this because this is a light colored linen. I didn't leave myself a lot of room for the border. I think it's going to be all right. And that is where I am. I love stitching on this and can't wait till it comes out again. I usually pull this out by the end of August. I'm ready for this and I pull it out and I'll start stitching it. I saw this at Hobby House Needleworks and immediately purchased it because I loved it so much. Okay. And I do have project bags, but every project bag that I have, I made myself. So, I am hoping to be listing project bags on my Etsy shop very soon. Okay, next up, this is Hocus Pocus. I need coffee to focus. Let me pull up the picture. I have it. This I got from my Readly app. So if you're not familiar with Readly, it is a magazine app that you can download. It costs money. It costs $14 a month. But you can download the there's two images on this one. Let me see here. One of one. Cancel. But you can download and print all of the patterns, and they have the World of Cross Stitch magazine, just cross stitch, and that includes all of the Halloween edition, the Christmas edition, in Cross Stitcher magazine and all of their like yearly extras as well. So this is Hocus Pocus. I need coffee to focus. I'm sorry for the glare. This has been a real pain in my butt to stitch. Hang on, I'm filming. I gotta let my son know. What's up? It's funny how we are in the house, but okay. So the cobwebs are what got me on this one. It's all back stitch, and I'm stitching this on a piece of 28 count fabric flare in the color Historic Beige. All right, and this is where I am. So these cobwebs, they got me. But I love this. It's gonna go out in our coffee area in the month of October. And I will pull that out in August and probably finish it this year. Hope to anyway. All right, he was asking if the dogs could go out. The landscapers were here today. All right, next up is International Santas. This is another one from that calendar. The Better Homes and Gardens Keepsakes calendar. And it is this pattern right here. Each one of these Santas represents a different country. And I've been enjoying this one a whole lot. This is also on my WIP Go board. I don't think it's been called yet this year though. And I usually work on it during Christmas in July, but I did not take this with me to New York, so I did not work on this during Christmas in July this year. All right. And here it is so far. I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count Whisper Lugana, I think. In all the called for DMCs. So all of these are 2021 starts, just to remind you. Okay. Folding that roadmap. Okay. All right, next up is my Frosty Forest. This is by Country Cottage Needleworks. There are 9 panels to this. And I worked on this quite a bit because it was called in January, actually, for WIP Go. And let me see if I can pull up one that's already done so that you can kind of see it. The beauty of the phone here. So this, I don't know if you can see it without the glare, is what it will look like when it's all done. And like I said, I've really enjoyed this. So this is going on a piece of 16 count. Was it French Rain maybe? Ada? And it's hard to see the white in this lighting. It comes out there. That's better. So you can actually see the white in real life. I'm making this into a pillow, like a lot of other people have. So I love it. It's coming out so cute. Working on finishing my third one there. All right, I'm gonna go and pick some lunch and see what the kiddos are up to, and then I will be back to film some more. Okay, back. So next up we have First Signs of Spring. This is by Cottage Garden Samplings. I have stitched several of their pieces and really love them. This was from their Time for All Seasons series. I got most of these, but then I canceled the subscription partway through because I got them from Crazy Annie Stitching, and I know they're very popular, but they did not ship well to me. So I was finding that I was paying a lot of extra money for the service to get them, and then I wasn't getting them any sooner than they were coming out in the store. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to cancel that. So I did. All right, so this is where I am on this one. This is being stitched on a piece of 32 count limestone. So I am pretty far on this. And I don't know if this is on my WIP Go board again, but it might be. Okay, next up is, it's a 2022 star, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. All right, next up is Quaker. This, I will insert a picture here when I'm editing of what it's going to look like when it's done. This is going on a piece of 32 count Silvery Moon Lugana by Zweigert. I changed the colors on this to 352, 648, 844, and 353. So they're grays and peach. I really like this one. This is another one that I did not do well on the border, and you're gonna see why in a second. So this is stitching up so easily and so beautifully. I love it so much, but this is the end right here. So I have like an inch. So depending on how I decide to finish this, I don't have much because I started it way, I did like a 3x3 start, like, and it really should have been a 2x2, and then I would have had plenty of room. Let me put this like this. There you go. See how beautiful it is? It really is beautiful. I will get back to this because I like it a lot. It's like red and gray in the actual pattern. All right. Next up for 2021 is, oh, Potions, Brews, and Spells. Really like this one. This one will have to come up for another Halloween. This was out of the 2016 Just Cross Stitch Halloween edition. And let me find the cover page. It is right here. So I am not doing any of this alphabet here because my fabric is not that big. I actually purchased this fabric from Hobby House Needleworks and it was a scrap piece. So I'm cutting all of that out and then I'm just going to be stitching from here and down. So like all of this down here, it like the words beware, that word is 1/1. We're going to have to see how that goes on this 32 count. This is Fiber on a Whim, Plum. Oops. And I'm using $37.99. So, really like this one. Yeah, beware all who enters, all in 1/1. Yeah. I might stitch that. I might just stitch that like regular stitching. We'll see. We will see. Again, this will come out later in the month when I start my Halloween stitching. Okay, this is a kit. I will show it later. All right, next up is, it's a 2022 start. December Trekking Along by Stitching with the Housewives. This will look like that when it's done. I'm stitching this in all the called for fancy flosses on a piece of 32 count chalkboard. This is by Witcholt. And let me see here. Get this right so you can see it. This is where I am so far on this one. It's looking good. One more light bulb to finish here, and then I can get started on the trees. And I keep the chickens in. Some people don't keep the chickens in, but I do. All right. Next up is Cobble in a Cup. Gobble in a Cup? Is that what this is called? No, it's just called Gobble. So What's in My Cup? It is by Stitching with the Housewives. Again, a really terrible cover photo. That's what it's going to look like. I'm stitching this on a piece of, I don't know if it's 32 count or 28 count. This is on Belfast linen in the color chalkboard. It's also by Witcholt. Let me see if I can. So there's my turkey so far. And I'm stitching this with all the called for DMCs. It's looking good. Next up is my last 2021 WIP. And it's the most wonderful feast of the year. This is Sue Hillis Designs. struggled with this, guys. This is my 3rd time starting it. I'm doing it 1/1 on 18 count time by Zweigert. And this is where I am so far. I really hope that as I do the back stitching, things like start showing up a little bit better on this. This is actually one of my WIP Go projects for this month. So I will be working on this week. Okay, next up. Oh no, it's not my last one. Sorry, I lied. I was working on this one, so that's why it's not hitting the thing. This is Scandinavian Forest. It's by Monica Bleason. It is on Etsy. I've had this chart for a while. I love the colors. Love the motifs. I'm doing this on 1/1 18 count oatmeal Ada. Let me move my needle so you can see it. I was working on this morning, and let me see. Hold it here. That is what I have done so far. Making our way through. All right, 2021 WIPs. Done. All right, I will be back. Okay, 2022 WIPs. Again, no particular order, just all started in 2022. The first one I have is called Pumpkin Spice. This came out of the 2021 or 2022, maybe the 2022 Halloween edition of Just Cross Stitch magazine, and I will put a cover photo here when I edit that will show you what it looks like. I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count limestone Lugana by Zweigert, and this is where I am so far. This has not gone well, people. This has been hard. So this might be a UFO. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. I have not liked stitching it. I have not enjoyed the process, and so I don't really get it out. The pattern is really hard to read, and well, it's not really hard to read. I mean, it's cross stitch, but like the back stitch and like how there's half stitches and quarter stitches, and I don't know why, but I feel like in a I feel like sometimes like something that's supposed to look simple should be simple. I don't know. I just underestimated it. That's all. All right, next up. This is Blackbirds on a Pumpkin. I love this one. I made a color change in this one by accident, actually. So this is what it will look like. Sorry, it's a black. Oh no, that's not what it's going to look like. Where's the... Oh, here it is. This is by Rosewood Manor. It was in the 2022 Just Cross Stitch magazine, which with my Hocus Pocus. I need copy to focus. This might have been 2021. I think it's 2021 actually. Yes, it is. It says it right there, Kim. Oh my god. All right, and I'm stitching this on 32 count Lugana in the color Vintage Country Mocha, and here it is. Oops, let me put it on the background so you can really see how beautiful it is. There it is. I should have no problem getting this done. Now, what color did I change? You're probably wondering. Well, it would be that bright pink-ish color. That's supposed to be a different color. Oh, wow. I like it. Almost done with this. Maybe it'll go out this Halloween. I don't know. I really, really like this one. I can finish this pretty quickly. So, again, at the end of August, when I bring out my Halloween stitching, that's when I will work on that. I'm going to have to go make dinner in a minute, but see if I can get a few more projects out. Okay, this is Pilgrim Mouse. I get these mice out of the World of Cross Stitch magazine. I cannot remember what issue this was. Again, off of my Readly app. This is the second of the mice that I'm stitching, and oops, this is what I have so far. I should just have the board on my lap. That's what I have so far. These stitch up really easily. Now, this is a good example of a very simple stitch in a magazine. So there are all full crosses in this, even though it looks like it's not. It's because of the way that they have the back stitching. So you do all full cross. Makes it so much easier. All right. Let's do one more, and then I'm going to go finish making dinner. All right, so that's a 2023 start, so I don't, or, yeah. No, that's a 2022 start. Oh my goodness. Goodness gracious. All right, this is Lizzy Kate, Merry Friends. I got this from my son for Christmas in 2022. No, 2021. We're in 2023. Oh my goodness. I did stitch on this while I was in New York. I got a lot of this done. And this is on a piece of 32 count natural raw linen. Guys, I swear I'm gonna get it. I promise. That is where he is right now. I changed the red. So the red that was called for is, oh my goodness, 815, and I changed it to 304. I thought it was a nicer, brighter red. So that's why. Everything else is the same, called for. All right, I'm gonna go make dinner, and I will see you all in a little bit. All right, I'm back. Let me adjust my chair a little bit. My little craft room, closet, office, all those things. Okay, so I'm still working on my 2022 WIPs. So next up is a Christmas stocking that I'm working on for my husband that I decided I'm going to restart. So this, let me pull it up for you. I don't have much of it done, so I kind of wanted to see how big it was going to be, and I decided that I want it to be smaller. I'm trying to get to good notes here. All right. So this, I'm making two different stockings. This one's for my husband. Hang on. So I am stitching 2 stockings, one for me and one for my husband. And I just need to find the one for my husband. Okay, so this is the stocking. I got this off of Etsy. And so I decided that I started on 25 count potato Lugana, and because I wanted it to be big enough, but I feel like this is kind of big. I don't know. What do you guys think? I've asked this question a couple of times before. I know I have enough fabric for it, but I feel like it's going to be too big. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Maybe I'll change my mind and start working on it. I would like to get it done for him. We have stockings, but they're like the red ones from like Target back in 2000. And then I quilted. Each one of my kiddos has a quilted stocking, so they're not cross stitch but quilted. I made those a few years ago. Anyways, I'm using all the called for DMCs for that one. Okay, next up. It's snow time. This is another Cottage Garden samplings. This was part of A Time for All Seasons. This was the very first one. I started this in August of 2022. I know that because I had just moved here with my son. I am using a piece of limestone 32 count Lugana, and I have quite a bit of this done. I really, really, really like this one. It's been super easy to stitch, and that is where I am so far. And I did work on this in New York. Not for very long. One night. Stitching, probably an hour or so. I feel like a lot of my patterns are getting beat up so bad. I try to keep them nice, but you know, when you have a fancy project bag like this one, you know, the one that it came in. All right, next up is a pattern by Cherry Hill Stitchery. It is called We Folk Welcome. Again, one of those St. Patrick's Day stitches. And this is almost done. I don't even know. I should just finish this tomorrow. I really should. This is on 28 count white Monaco. And I changed the greens in this. And then I also changed the writing. So it, as you can see, it called for 720 and 7. It called for 906 and 986, and I used 704 and 700. I think that's 700, right? 702. And so this part here is black on this one, and I changed it to green because I wanted it to be more green. It's super cute. It's going to be adorable. I have a shamrock I'm going to put this on. And then this is the other one that I did last year, but I finished this last year. So this was part of my 2022 finishes. But I just need to frame them. And then I have one more in here that I'm going to stitch. And it's Malarkey and Shenanigans. It's also by Cherry Hill Stitchery. And Prone to Malarkey and Shenanigans. And I have another part of this fabric right here that I'm going to use to stitch that. So this really is just this right here. See this shamrock, 2 flowers and a heart? Yeah, the same things over here. So really, like, maybe an hour of stitching. I should just get it out and do it. At any rate, it should be done by St. Patrick's Day this year. Okay, project bag. These are my fave. Gallon size bag. All right, next up is Fa La La. This is by Madame Chantilly. I love this piece. I can't remember who it was, if it was Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch or somebody. Anyway, someone was stitching this and I saw it and had to have it. And this was a restart for me. I started this originally on a piece of sapphire and it was too green. And so I restarted it. And this is 32 count Belfast linen in the color Whisper. And I like it much, much better. And that is what I have so far. This will definitely come out for Christmas stitching this year. And it needs a good amount of ironing. All of my stuff does. And, like, I know I'm not supposed to keep things in the hoops, and I know I'm not supposed to keep needles in them, and I know all these things, and I do it anyway. And so, yeah, there's that. That's just out there. Okay, next up is Away We Ride by Blackbird Designs. This is my only Blackbird design. I got this last year. And I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count. I believe it's natural raw linen. And this is by Witchelt. I can tell because it's stiff. And I am not using the called for colors because nobody had them when I started this. And I wanted to start it right away. So instead I am using Weeks Dye Works. For the Garden Gate, I am using Grapevine. And for the Onyx, I am using Charcoal. They're both Weeks Dye Works. And I love it. And I am going to be stitching the rest in the called for colors. I have all the called for colors, I think, right? Called for colors or DMCs. Let me look. I don't want to lie to you. I have all the called for colors in here. Right? Wood Smoke, Charcoal, Pecan Pie. Oh, I think I'm going to do a mix. So the house I definitely wanted to do in the called for color. And the ravens I wanted to do in the called for color. The rest are going to be DMCs, I guess. But it's really good. I know not a lot is done. This was called this year for WIP Go already, but I couldn't work on it. So, I will be doing makeup work on this, probably in September. Okay, next up is Land That I Love by Teresa Kogut. Everybody was stitching this about a year or two ago. I fell in love with the colors, the strawberries. I mean, there's just so many things that I love about this. And so I am using most of the called for threads. except for I changed a color. I know. So I changed the Classic Colorworks 218, which is like blue corn color, to 9. What color am I using? 930. I'm doing this on a piece of 32 count natural. Is it natural? I can't remember. Natural raw again? I don't know. I use the same. I have the same go-tos every single time I want a color like this. It's usually natural raw linen. Excuse me. It's 32 count, that I know for sure. And it is coming along. This is a beast to stitch. It is one of my WIP Go projects, but I can't remember if it was called or not. I will definitely be working on this some more. Next up, is almost done. This is Lighting the Way by Silver Creek Samplers. This I'm doing as a wedding sampler for my husband and I. It says, always be a lighthouse, shine your beacon bright, guide every soul adrift at sea throughout their darkest night. That's kind of sums up our relationship and our 23 years of marriage, 25 years together. We were married in 2020, or not 2020, we were married in 2000. And I do have a needle in this. I was working on this, so I do have a string hanging off. And this has been a breeze to stitch. I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count vintage Stormy Night Belfast linen. And with all the called for DMCs. Let's get it off of there so you can see it. And there she is. Oops. And as much stitching as this lighthouse is, it was not hard to stitch. It was actually pretty easy to stitch. This will be done before the end of the year. And I would love it to be framed, and it's going to hang in my living room, I believe. Oh, oops. You know, this is the second time that I showed Fa La La and left the pattern out of it. Guys, I don't know why I took the pattern out. Good Lord. Okay, back in there. All right, next up is Prairie Schooler Santas, I think. Yep. All right, I am stitching all of these for my kids, but the one that I'm working on right now is the 2004 Santa for my oldest son, Ethan, who was born in 2004. And it is this one right here. So that is the 2004 Prairie Schooler Santa. I have one for each of my children and then one for the year that my husband and I got married. And I'm stitching this on a piece of 16 count. I don't know if it's like potato. I can't remember. This one also has a needle in it, because they all do. Don't come at me. All right, there he is. This looks like potato, but it could be just called natural. I think I got this piece at Hobby Lobby. I do not shop at Hobby Lobby very often. I have some thoughts about Hobby Lobby, so I try not to, but I do have to go there sometimes. I was there today because I live in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and there is no fabric store here except for Walmart, and you can never get anybody at Walmart to help you cut fabric. And I needed a piece of Star Wars fabric for the Star Wars piece that I finished for my son so that I could mount it, and they had some at Hobby Lobby, so I had to buy something. I do try not to shop in there whenever possible. Oh, here's a picture of my kiddos. The day of my son's graduation. Grace, Ethan, Adam, Ryan. Love the hair, huh? He gets it from somebody. Anyways, here's a picture of my husband and I. For those of you with Ethan. Special day. All right, next up, Stitchy Stars by Lori Holt. I bought the thread pack for this when I bought the pattern. I bought the DMC thread pack. You're never gonna guess what this is being stitched on. Here, I'll give you a hint. It looks like this. This is a piece of 32 count natural raw Lugana. This is even weave for sure. Now, what am I doing with this? I am doing something different. So instead of doing this long thing, I'm doing 9 of these. So it'll be a square. And so I changed up this one completely. So this one is really this square right here. But I saw this like little peppermint sign and I was like, ooh, I kind of like that. Because I wanted it to be more red, white, and blue. I thought, I like the pink and the teal, but I feel like it kind of takes away from the like the red, white, and blue, I guess. I wanted more of like a 4th of July type of thing, like a quilt. So, and then you'll notice that anything with a white background, so these two have like the darker backgrounds and then the white background, and then this will be a white background, this will be a white background, and this one will be more of a dark background. So it's like every other one. But I really like how this is coming out too. I did work on this over the summer in New York when I was there. So again, these should be like simple ones that don't take very long, but they are. Okay. Next up is All Hallows Eve. This is a little dove design pattern, and I got string now. It's out of So this is what it will look like when it's done. I bought this from Etsy. And this is where I am. And this is where I am so far. Now I messed up the house, but you'll never know. I messed it up. I wasn't paying attention. I was like, oh, this is stitching up just this pattern. I've got this pattern down. Whatever, I added a stitch to both sides. It'll be fine. It's gonna look fine. Getting down there. Again, this one should not take that long to finish. and it will come out in August, the end of August, when I start working on my Halloween stitching. So I'll put all of these in rotation, and that is how I will get them all done. All right, next up. It's my Fruits of Plenty. I started this in 2022, and this is the Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along for 2021. But I didn't want to stitch it in 2021, so I started it in 2022. It will look something like this. There are some different variations to the house here in this motif. I'm not even close to that, so I can't even tell you what I'm going to decide to do, because I'm still on the first part. I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count antique white Belfast linen. And there's a needle in it. Hang on. This is where I am. So I'm getting there. I love my colors. I'm stitching it with 644 and 932. I had to look at a lot of people's Instagrams before I could decide what colors I really wanted to go with. And every time I had picked my colors. Actually, I had gone to Joann's and picked out my colors. And then I was like, I don't know. And then I looked at Instagram, I saw everybody's, and I was like, I think I'm good with the colors I chose, and I love them, and it's going to be beautiful when it's done. And I always want to work on this, but it has not been called yet on my WIP board this year. I'm still waiting for it to be called. Next up is the last one in here. Why do I feel like, oh, because I don't have Fox Forest with me. All right, this is Let's Talk Winter. This is by Hands On Design. I stitched Let's Talk Autumn already, which is actually what's going to go on this sign. This sign right here that I got for 70% off at Michael's. This is what my Let's Talk Autumn is going on. Anyways, this is Let's Talk Winter. I'm doing mine on a piece of 14 count navy Ada with all the called for DMCs. And this is where I am so far. Almost done with this too. I'm right along the bottom where it says Cozy Quilts. Right, Cozy. Yeah, Cozy Quilts in the snow globe. So this is coming along beautifully. I think I could definitely have this done by next January. All right. All together, I have 37 WIPs. At the beginning of the year, I had 46 WIPs. And my goal this year has been to finish projects with no new starts. So, I only have a few 2023 starts. Just a couple. Where did I put my 2023 starts? Oh, ooh, I almost forgot a huge project. All right, so my one and only Hade. And then my 2023 starts in here. Yes. I gotta figure out where I put my 2023 starts. Anyways, this is my hate. I started this in January. Oops. It's called Heaven and Nature Sing, Mini Heaven and Nature Sing. It is by Donna Gelsinger. Artwork by Donna Gelsinger. I bought it from the Hade website. There it is. I'm stitching this on 25 count, easy grid, with all the called for DMCs, 1/1, and it is hard to see. And I'm trying the Perky method since this is my first time. And, oops, let me get this on the back here so you can see it. And that is where I am. I don't use Pattern Keeper, so I don't know exactly the percentage, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roughly 700 stitches. This is not a very easy thing to stitch, but I like it. So I'm going to keep going. Keep going. I can't believe I almost forgot that. Now, this was a 2023 start. So, this is one of my 2023 ones. Alright. I need a minute to think. I was certain that I put them up on the shelf yesterday. They're not in there, right? No. These are my kitted projects. I'm going to show you those in the next video. Okay, so here's a 2023 start. Here's a 2023 start. I put them over here. Okay, so I haven't started much in 2023 because I want to finish stuff. So, I started from Street Samplers Raccoon Rabble, and I started this in July. And this has been a lot of fun to stitch. I'm using all the called for colors on a piece of platinum 36 count. This is 36 count platinum linen by Zweigert. I still have a sticker on it, so that's what it tells me. All right, so this is where I am on this guy. Now, look at that baby raccoon. Isn't he just so sweet? Let me just explain a little bit about that baby raccoon. His head is completely stitched 1/1. Yeah. This is being stitched, by the way, 1/2. Except for his little head, which is 1/1. That was extremely hard for me to see on 36 count. Now, this is called for to be stitched on a piece of 36 count. The person who stitched this on 36 count, that did 1/1, like, at least on 32 count, I can see it a little better. It was hard, but I got it done. I did it, the trick, I did it during the day, outside. That was how I was able to do it, so that I could see it, the holes. But even still, you can't rip it out if you make a mistake. It's very stressful. But it's done now, and now I can just stitch the rest of it and feel like I really accomplished something really great, because I did. All right. My second, or third, I should say, 2023 start is Bunny Hop by Country Cottage Needleworks. I'm stitching this on all the called for. So it's 28 count lamb's wool linen by Witchelt with all the called for Weeks Dye Works and DMCs. Now, here's my problem with this one. Nowhere in the directions does it say, I'm looking at it right now just to make sure that I'm correct on this, that you need more than one skein of the Weeks Dye Works guacamole. I think that's what it is, right? Guacamole. Yes. Well, guess what? You need more than one. Because I'm going to run out. So I should definitely get more. But the variegation is beautiful. So it's worth it. But I need more. Alright, so this is where I am in Bunny Hop. And you can see that variegation so well. It is so beautiful. But the green goes all the way across. So it goes all the way across this piece. And there's no way that I'm going to have enough. So, yeah. But it's going to be beautiful. And it's going to go on my mantle in the spring because I don't like cutesy Easter patterns. I didn't feel like this one was so super cutesy. It has bunnies in it, but it's not like overall like the cutest thing. So there is that. All right, what time is it? Oh, goodness, I still have to make an oatmeal bake for band camp tomorrow. Good Lord. Okay. Oh, that's where those scissors are. All right, so now I want to go over the two pieces that I'm restarting and talk about that for a minute. Because they are active WIPs, but I'm going to restart them. So this one is Truck Snow Globe. Everybody knows this is by Shannon Christine Designs, and I've been working on this since Jesus was a baby. And I have made so many mistakes in it, and I have like really, really, really struggled with it. And this is where I am on it. Let me pull this out. And I know you're like, oh my goodness, so much of it is done. And it is. I mean, quite a bit of it is done, but I don't know. It's just, it doesn't call to me. I'm stitching it on a piece of 25 count Vintage Stormy Night Lugana. And it's just, I don't know. It's a WIP. I don't know. Maybe I'll finish it on this. I don't know. I did buy a piece of 14 count silver Ada today that I thought I could restart this on. We'll see. The other one I'm restarting again for the third time, but this is hopefully going to be the last time, is by Country Cottage Needleworks. It is called Autumn. I love this. I want to stitch it so bad, but this isn't the right fabric. So I'm stitching it on 36 count. Oh, I already got rid of it. So I was stitching it on 36 count linen. It was too small. I was going to have to cut some of the words out. And I was like, no. nope, I'm not cutting anything out of this. I want to stitch this as it is and have it for my mantle. So yeah, there's that. So I will be restarting this probably in the fall. Okay. So that is all of my WIPs. Most of my finishes. Now, there were a couple of fully finished items that I did, and I can show you what they look like, but I cannot show you the full finish because I gave them away to my nieces already because I made them for them. So these are part of my these are part of my WIPs that I finished. Right. So these were all kits that I got from 123 Stitch. They're dimensions kits. They're all done on plastic canvas. These are serious stitching. Like there's so many French knots, but I'm a French knot expert now because I can't remember whose tutorial that I wrote, or that, not that I wrote, but that I watched. I'll try to remember it. They showed me how to do it. I practiced it a bunch, and then I started doing it, and now I can do it. I couldn't do a single French knot before like September of last year. I think that's about when I finally figured it out. It like clicked for me. I've been stitching since I was 12 years old and could never do a French knot until last year. And I'm about to be 45. So that tells you. Okay, so here is the one I made for my niece. And I fully finished it and gave it to her. And it looks just like that. Sort of. I mean, yes, it definitely looks like that. It's beautiful. This one is another fully finish. This was part of my active WIPs. The other one I had finished before 2023. And this one was an active WIP. I finished this on like July something of this year. Anyways, it looks a lot like this. Beautiful. And then this one for my nephew, I cut out, but have not really finished it yet. Where is it? And then I still have this one to fully finish. Oops, just pause on that. So I fully finished these with felt that I bought from Michael's, that I just kind of, like, I'm going to show you the back because, you know, here's the back. So I just put felt, and then I put the string in between the felt and the front. And that is how I finished it. I have so many more of these because I went crazy. I bought like 12 of them. All different. So you're going to see a whole bunch more because I pulled out like 5 of them that I'm going to start for this year. And I'm going to make one for each one of my own children. Now that my nieces and nephew have one. Okay. So that was some fully finishes. Now I want to show you some more fully finished items that I did. These are from previous finishes, and I finally got around to fully finishing them. So this one is a Stitched with the Housewives. I finished this cross stitch in early 2022, and I just got around to finishing it right before I left to go to New York. So all I did was this is mat board, this is mat board, and then I just used hot glue and ribbon. My second fully finish is this one right here. This is hot glue hanging off of that. Come on now. Okay. And again, I did the same thing. Mat board, mat board. So this is on a piece of 32 count, oh no, yes, 32 count gingerbread, and this is on 25 count black Lugana. And then this is also a finish of mine. This is from Country Cottage Needleworks. This was before I became an expert on French knots. That was when I was first learning how to do it. This was I can't remember what's underneath it. It says like stay something nice, and I just covered it all up because I liked the frame. So it'll sit like this out when I put it out. So those were 3 of my fully finished items, and then I also finished these 2 ornaments. These are Quirky Quakers, and so this one's the unicorn. My circles are not perfect. I still have a lot of learning to do when it comes to fully finishing these. And Loch Ness. I bought these from Michael's. They're like plain at the end of the Christmas season, so I got them for like $1 or $2 each. So that's Loch Ness. And then I also stitched the Bigfoot one. And I have a whole bunch more of her patterns. I just love them. So I have, let's see here. I have, oops, no. The bat, the sheep, the hedgehog, the fox. Yeah, I have a bunch. Oh. So I do want to work on those as well. All right, that is it for my WIP parade. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. This is not a mid-year, but it's like a welcome back WIP parade. So, because I know that it's August now, and there's only 4 more months of the year. I can't believe that I'm starting back to work again in like 2 weeks. Excuse me. So many things. But thank you all for joining me and watching me today. And I hope that you had fun. I hope that maybe you got inspired by something. I know that 37 WIPs seems like a lot, and it is, but I'm, really excited to finish a lot of them. And, I'm trying not to start a lot of stuff so that I can finish things, and that's really been my focus this year. So that's why I don't have a lot of 2023 starts, but I'm trying to just get through some of the big projects, get them out of my WIP collection, get them posted on my wall, because my husband's like, we have all these beautiful things and we don't have any of them posted on, hung on the wall. So I'm working on that. So also, please like and subscribe if you're not already, and thank you again for spending time in my closet / craft room / office with me today. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.